about Inflectra, the company. We have some obviously returning people who probably know already, but others who we want to make sure know what's going on. So first of all, Inflectra, our mission is to help you, customers, partners, and people looking at the tool, deliver quality software faster and with lower risk. And I really want to point out the fact here that in many organizations today, there's a challenge in balancing these two imperatives. The imperative to deliver software faster. And if you go back to the Agile Manifesto, a lot of reasons why people have taken on the Agile methodologies is to deliver faster. You're not waiting 6 to 9 months to get valuable functionality into the hands of the users. You can ship faster. You can get feedback faster. You can, deliver quality code faster. But unfortunately, the quality is sometimes the thing that gets missed out in that process. And if you actually look at the Agile Manifesto, a lot of the ideas in it were to ensure high quality testing before you develop, testing all the time, continuous integration, fast feedback loops. So quality is baked into the Agile Manifesto. But unfortunately, when people start to deliver software quickly, sometimes it can suffer. And so our whole value proposition as a company is helping you with our tools to deliver quality software faster. And then lastly, finding ways to reduce the risk in your development lifecycle. So if we've succeeded when you've succeeded, hopefully. Moving on then. Another thing about Inflectra is, as well as having some really great products, hopefully, that we're going to see today, we as a company have a strong company culture which stands behind the products. And the products are really only ever as good as the company that makes them. And so Inflectra's core values, we have 4 of them: great products, great team, great workplace, and great community. Some of the things you're going to see in the product stem from these values. For example, building for our users, not for investors. The functionality I'm going to show you today and this tool I'm going to show you was developed by coming some ideas, following the Agile Manifesto ourselves and living that and getting feedback from our customers, and having functionality that our customers need, not necessarily the latest fad that a VC has told us we should put in the product. So useful features that deliver actual value. If you work with us as a customer, hopefully, or as a partner, just getting it done, no drama. We want to make sure that if you need something from us, we're going to help you get it done as quickly as possible, not 10 layers of bureaucracy. And hopefully every interaction you have with us follows that. Another thing is, if you're looking to maybe join the company now, people, former customers have become employees, which is great. We offer some great benefits, and we have great flexibility in our working practices, which means we have people who've worked with us for 10, 12, 15 years. So when you work with us, you may be working with someone that you worked with 3 or 4 years ago or 3 or 4 companies ago. So that great continuity at the company means the products have all those designs and all that feedback and all those people and all those great ideas resident within the company. And then lastly, as a company, we see it's really important to give back to the community, and that's in different ways, both the community where our headquarters is in the Washington, D.C. area. Also, we have team members throughout the world. We've done things to help bring technology opportunities to communities all around the world, including Argentina, other parts of the United States, parts of Africa, Australia, lots of different places we've actually done work to live those values in practice. But these are our capabilities. Today, we'll be focusing on SpiraTeam, which is some of those, but we cover a wide range of different pieces of functionality to help you deliver software faster. So things from requirements management, quality assurance, obviously, things around risk management, test automation, IT service management. This webinar is really focusing on the project management side, requirements management, delivery. But if you are looking for some test automation or IT service management or program management or risk management, we do have capabilities in those areas as well. And we will have other webinars that cover those topics. Here's a list of our customers by industry in the US and Canada. We cover pretty much all the major industries. We do have a focus on, I would say, the more regulated industries and sectors, the most complex problems to solve. So things like insurance and banking, automotive, telecom, government defense, healthcare, bio, aerospace. These are the customers that have some of the most complex types of systems to deliver, and they look to us to help them solve those problems and reduce their risk and keep their quality high. In Europe, some of the same industries, and you can see again some well-known names broken down by industry. And then for the rest of the world outside of the US and Europe, we're doing this by region. These are some of the marquee names we have in those regions. You'll see again some of the same industries, some of the same types of customer represented. So why would you choose SpiraTeam? And obviously, you may be using other tools. And today we're talking about differences and similarities with tools like Jira from Atlassian. but why would you use SpiraTeam in general? Really, this section is about the SpiraTeam difference and how it all fits together. So first of all, let's look at how it fits together, and then we'll look at how it's a little bit different. So first of all, we're looking today at SpiraTeam. That's our team level product, and that's largely comparable to a Jira, Confluence, and a bunch of plugins. We also do have SpiraPlan, which is a scaled agile enterprise planning tool. That's one level higher. And then we also have SpiraTest, which is really a more lightweight QA test management tool. So SpiraTeam is in between. It's a great full lifecycle tool that's designed for teams and even larger team of teams. If you're looking then down the road to expand to an enterprise, you would probably look at expanding it to SpiraPlan. It also comes with our code management solution called Tara Vault. It's a Git and Subversion code hosting solution that's fully integrated with Spira. And then we also have some add-on products that you might use. Desk for IT service management. If you're coming from, say, Jira Service Desk, that will be the equivalent. If you're looking to do test automation, both for web, GUI, so API calls, we can do things like SAP, ServiceNow, Salesforce. We can do Microsoft Dynamics, custom web apps, Flutter, you name it. It can cover pretty much all the automation use cases. That's another tool that integrates with SpiraTeam very well. And we also have an exploratory testing tool for those who are doing manual exploratory testing called Spira Capture. And that all fits together to be part of our suite. So again, we'll be focusing today on SpiraTeam. SpiraTeam is really made up of the test management and Tara Vault solution plus agile project management. And if you want to compare the different editions, you can go on our website. We've got a handy comparison matrix. Now, the company's philosophy is really all around the idea of harmony. And that's what drives us in terms of developing the Spira platform and the SpiraTeam product. And there's three different elements that make up harmony. The first is what is across disciplines. The second is through simplicity, and the third is through ecosystems. And it's interesting, right? When you start to think about who uses the tools, there are three distinct audiences. There's others too. There's like BAs and IT support and DevOps people, but it broadly comes into three main areas. We've got the people who are building the software, the developers. They just want to be able to write code, make sure it matches the user stories and the requirements that they've been given, do that as efficiently as possible in the tools they like, and make sure they do the necessary testing they have to do before they have someone else test it, and make sure that they not having too many meetings and not be distracted. So they want tools that help them be productive and deliver high quality code. We then have the tester community. They want to really use a tool that helps them manage the testing process. And then we have obviously the managers who want to make sure that we're delivering on time, understand what are the risks in delivering on time, what's going to be in each sprint, what we maybe put out of the sprint, put in the sprint, what's our backlog, and what's the risk to delivering on time. And what we find is that many different tools are really good at one community, but at the expense of the other. So there are many good software products out there that were designed for developers. They're really good, they're really lightweight, but when you start to try and manage projects at any scale, they quickly break down and become unusable. You may then have tools that were designed for, and also the testers tend not to have any tools. They have to use Excel sheets to try and integrate with those tools. There may be things that are really good for testers, but then the testers are living in their own separate world and not communicating easily with developers. And that's a problem too, because then you get requirements that aren't being met, and you get this constant back and forth between, I fixed it, no, it doesn't work, yes, I did, it works on my machine, doesn't work on your machine. So an environment that helps testers and developers work in harmony is really important. And then lastly, managers, they want to basically make sure the team has got the resources they need to deliver and understand what are the impediments to delivery. They don't want to necessarily micromanage the team if they're a good manager anyway. So they don't want to necessarily get in the way of the team, but they want to be able to understand what's going on. And so there are some tools out there that are very good for managers, but put an undue burden on the team. And conversely, there are tools that the teams might like, but the managers can't get the metrics they need. So we try and balance all of these three different communities across the different disciplines. The second thing around harmony is simplicity. When we designed SpiraTeam, we designed it to be a complete solution from day one. So when we start to look at the live app, it's got planning, it's got testing, it's got task tracking, it's got defect management, it's got code management. It's all built into one solution, and we spent time to make the user interface the consistent across the different modules, and we've got predefined workflows. We've got predefined default values, fields, sample projects, all set up in the system. So as compared to, say, obviously for today, the Atlassian suite, their model is a little bit different. They're different. Their model is more around, you get Jira, you get a bunch of plugins, and you configure it, and you build a solution effectively. You compose your own solution in the Atlassian suite and its partner ecosystem. And it's just a different approach. Our approach is that we want to make it as easy as possible to get going from the beginning, so you spend less time configuring the tool and more time using the tool. And then when you upgrade the tool to the next version, you haven't got to upgrade 20 different plugins as well. It's really takes the IT burden away from the end users. We take care of that for you. And that also means that our product is more opinionated. We're not advocating that SpiraTeam is a product to do project management for a marketing team or maybe an event. It's for software development, for systems engineering. SpiraTeam is really geared towards certain kinds of project that it does really well. And that opinionated design means that it is actually easier to use and more simple for those kind of projects, rather than taking a more general project management tool and trying to force fit it for software development. And as someone always says, because if all you have is an issue tracker, everything is an issue. So one difference you'll see in Spira as opposed to some other tools is that we have distinct artifacts. We have requirement types, we have issue types, incident types, we have test cases. They are distinct things in the system. We have releases, documents. They're different artifact types that have different purposes. And that means there's less configuration needed on your side to set things up. And the idea is that SpiraTeam really guides you in your delivery. So it helps you with your requirements planning, your test planning, your sprint planning, scheduling, tracking the teams, and then making sure, are you on track, are you behind, so the management have visibility. And as I mentioned, we do have the idea of harmony across ecosystems, which is, in this presentation, we're talking about how you can use SpiraTeam as an alternative to tools like Jira, but we recognize that different teams want to use different tools, and maybe the different teams have different needs. And so Spira is designed as part of our open platform philosophy to integrate with various different tools. So SpiraTeam has integration with Atlassian, with Microsoft Azure DevOps, with GitHub, with GitLab, with Salesforce, ServiceNow, various different other open source tools as well. Also integrates with things like Asana, Monday.com. So if you are looking at integrating with teams that maybe are not doing software development, you could use SpiraTeam for the software development, and you could use, say, Monday.com or Asana or ClickUp for the marketing team or the event management team. So the great thing is you can still roll data up across the system, even when you connect to different tools. Some other things in terms of non-feature differentiators, and we talk about why we're different, going back to our core values, our customers have told us that they really want the flexibility of being able to deploy the software in different ways. Some of our customers, they really want to get out of the IT business. They don't want to be hosting infrastructure. They want to be cloud, they want to be fully SaaS, and they want Inflectra to take care of it for them. Absolutely no problem. We use Amazon Web Services as our cloud platform. We support hosting in multiple different regions. We can support data privacy, data residency, where you can have data only resident, for example, in the US or Canada, in the EU, Australia, India, Singapore, depending on the needs of the customer and what kind of data it is. So again, fully cloud, fully SaaS. However, we have other customers that say, that's great, but we want to deploy it on our private cloud. We have our own Azure environment that we manage the encryption. We manage all the environments. We want it there. Can you support that? Absolutely. And we have other customers that are moving, ironically, away from cloud from a variety of cost or security or compliance reasons. They're like, we're going to standardize on this other private cloud that we're building ourselves. Can you support that? And the answer is yes. So our clients tell us they want flexibility around how they deploy the software, where they deploy the software. And so we've made it very easy to do that. We have a single platform. It can be deployed in any of those different environments with the same features, the same APIs, identical, the same list of plugins and extensions, regardless of how you intend to deploy it. Now, obviously, as everyone knows, Atlassian is phasing out their Jira server and all their server products in February next year. They are going to have data center for very large customers, but for the most part, they want everyone on the cloud platform. If you look at the other alternatives like the ClickUps and Monday.coms for project management, they're cloud native anyway, cloud first. Many of our competitors are going cloud only. We have some legacy competitors, obviously, that are on premise only. They're going away. So one of the things is that we've got both, and that we have a long-term commitment to doing both. We're different about is our concurrent license model. We're very proud of that because we find it gives our clients incredible flexibility. For example, you've got a client that's got a development team in one country, a testing team in another country in different time zones. You've got managers who want to log in and want to be able to view a dashboard, view a report. Right now, many of those people are going to have very large numbers of licenses for these effectively incidental users, or they're going to have a large number of licenses that sit dormant, 10 hours out of the day or 12 or 14 hours out of the day, they're not being used. So that doesn't make sense for us. We said, well, let's have a concurrent license model. So when users log in, they use the license. When they log out, they release the license. You can have unlimited named users on all of our products, unlimited storage, unlimited projects, unlimited artifacts. And so that way it gives customers flexibility. And the other thing is that this drives behavior. What we find is that when customers have limited licenses, they try and work around the system. We have seen situations where clients only have a certain number of licenses, and if you get to the next tier, it doubles the price. Like, I've got 25 users, but I want 26. Oh no, it's double the price. So what they do is they'll use the API and they'll grab data in spreadsheets, and now they'll do the reporting in a spreadsheet, and they'll email it to people, and suddenly the tool isn't the system of record anymore. Suddenly everything's being done in Excel outside the tool. Managers are doing, creating PowerPoints with tons of dashboards and reports, and they're dropping into a separate reporting tool. So we want people to use the product, not work around to get the product. So that's one of the reasons why we have this model. It encourages people to work in the tool. Some other differentiators, we have 24-hour support with technical experts staffing it. That's both for the core system and also for the plugins. We don't make our plugin support extra. We don't say you've got to go to the vendor of the plugin. We maintain all the plugins. We provide support for them. So it reduces the cost of ownership for people using the system and learning how to use it. They know they come to Inflectra for everything. And of course, the ease of use. Because you're not having to configure the tool, 99% of our customers just deploy it themselves. And guess what? For the larger customers that need help, we have our accelerator packages and our partner network who can be there to help our customers configure the tool. They have training. We're there to hold their hand through the implementation journey of SpiraTeam. Now, the other thing that SpiraTeam has going for it is its integrations and compliance functionality. So one of the things we're seeing increasingly is the world is evolving in two distinct directions that is actually pulling us in different directions. So on the right-hand side, the world is becoming more agile. We're doing DevOps, we're doing containerization, Kubernetes, we're doing AI, machine learning. We're using Copilot. We're writing code faster, we're deploying faster, we're getting feedback faster, we're testing faster, and that's a good thing. On the left-hand side, we're getting cyber attacks. We're getting more and more government rules. The EU is going to be releasing more data privacy rules next year, more security rules. The US is on the cusp of passing privacy legislation federally. There's tons of states doing the same things. There's lots of industries that are now having more and more requirements around software-defined vehicles, software-defined aerospace products, medical devices that are software-hardware hybrids. So the rules around more and more of the software we're building is getting more complicated. So at the same time as we're deploying faster, what's happening is all these compliance rules and regulations and all this compliance stuff is acting as a friction, as a drag on delivering. We're going to get to the situation where I can deploy the code in an hour, and it will take me a month to deal with the paperwork to deploy that 1 hour's worth of code. And that is the problem. So with Spira and Inflectra as a company, but SpiraTeam as the product, our aim is to streamline both the delivery of software, but reduce the risk and increase the quality, and so that we can actually generate all of this documentation and handle all of this compliance stuff at the same speed. So you can have compliance and delivery at the same speed, at the same cadence, so that you can actually deliver into production faster, as opposed to delivering near to production faster and then waiting for the process the bureaucracy to catch up with it. And some examples of that would be, we've got clients using SpiraTeam in life sciences where they can now release software faster, they can update all of their information live in the system. They've gone to a complete paperless lifecycle management, where before they could do the development, maybe paperless, but everything else was manual. And so now they can deliver software in the life science industry, whether that's medical devices, whether it's hospital systems, or it could be in a pharma company, all the supporting IT that you use in pharma development, they can all be delivered with lower risk at faster speed. Financial services and insurance and banking, and we have a lot of clients in that industry. We have functionality around risk management, around automated testing, which I talked about, both SpiraTeam itself, but also some of the add-on products, allow you to deliver faster, meet your compliance regulations, whether that's Sarbanes-Oxley, SOC 2, Dodd-Frank, whatever the rules are, regulations are. You can again have that auditability and traceability in the platform at the same speed as your delivery. Oh, and I should mention healthcare. I skipped over it. We also have a validated platform for life sciences, and we have support for electronic signatures, two of the key requirements to do that in life sciences. In the energy, automotive, industrial space, we've got the ability to do full requirements management, where you have clients that are have an agile development process, but they have a V model requirements process. They can blend those two together in SpiraTeam really easily. They can also integrate the standards and regulations into their requirements plans, into their test planning. And then they've got all the compliance documentation and paperwork generated out of SpiraTeam. And then lastly, we have in the defense and aerospace sectors, government somewhat, but really defense and aerospace. We've got the ability to manage projects, programs. We've got test step level traceability in the tool. We've also got the automation functionality as well. And in these sectors, the fact that we can deploy SpiraTeam on premise, on GovCloud, on a private cloud, that's really a game changer for them. In many cases, they're working on multiple tiers of classified network, all of which are air gapped. The cloud isn't an option, or if it is going to be the cloud, it has to be the Gov cloud. It may have to be Gov cloud where they manage the actual cloud infrastructure themselves. We can support all those different use cases within SpiraTeam pretty easily. Again, some more customers. We already had that, so I'll skip over that. And just to summarize, these are some of the features we have across the board for those different industries that I had mentioned. We do comply with all these different international standards, whether it's aerospace, DO178C, automotive, ASPICE/ISO 26262. We do a lot of work, obviously, in HIPAA. I'd mentioned already, we do fully support GDPR. We can host in the EU. Signed up for a data privacy framework, the successor for Privacy Shield. We do a lot of work with the FDA and EMEA for life sciences. And again, other general quality standards as well. We've got full support for that as well. Integration options, back to our concept of harmony. We have over 70 different integrations that come with the product. These are just some of the key ones. They're all supported by Inflectra. So if you have a question, not only do we support the SpiraTeam system, but we will support the plugins, integrations, our support desk. We'll make sure that you're successful rather than you just saying, well, it's up to you how you do it. So that's a really good feature. They're developed and supported by Inflectra. Now, the last piece is, so this looks great. I want to move from Jira for a variety of maybe server or functionality reasons or price, whatever the reason is. How do I do that? We've made that really straightforward. Depending on the size of your installation and the customization you've done, obviously there may be slight differences, but in general, we've got some migration tools that I'm going to talk about next. That will do most of the work for you. Then we've got assistance. And that could be everything from our support team helping you, which is free. It could also be our partner network and our accelerators, where we have implementation services where we can actually help you as a service engagement, migrate the system, configure the workflows, and do a lot of the post-migration, set up in the system. So you've got, rather than transitioning from Jira to Spira, you're also getting the best practices baked in as you do that, understanding your unique use cases. And so that's where our partners come in. We would work with you and as a customer and one of our partners to understand your needs and help you with that transition in your journey. And so here's how the migration itself portion works. We've got a migration tool, connects to Jira Cloud or Jira Server/Data Center, connects, and then you can choose what you want to migrate, and it will migrate it over from Jira into Spira using the wizard, and we'll log out what it's doing. This is a pretty vanilla migration path. We have had some larger clients that are doing the migration where they want a lot more sophistication, and so we have some partners, I think, well, at least some of them maybe on this call, who are doing that migration using some of their own scripts, and they've been agreed to publish some of those scripts as well as a part of the open source community that we are part of. So most of this is done using our migration tool that we provide, but in our public GitHub account, we do have lots and lots of user contributed scripts and things as well. So as partners, do those migrations, if they come across things where they're doing things in a slightly different way than the standard, they potentially may publish them, and in one case have agreed to publish them into our GitHub repository to share them with the community. So the next thing is going to be the live demo. So before we do that, if there are any questions in this section first, now would be a good time. Any questions?
Hey, Adam, I don't see any questions, so I think it's safe to go on to the live demo.
Excellent. Sounds good. So exiting out of the PowerPoint, let's go into the live application right here. And you can see that, okay? Perfect. All right. So this is SpiraTeam right here. And let me get hide the Zoom window because it's right in the way. So SpiraTeam, as I mentioned, it's a fully web application. Can be hosted by Inflectra, can be hosted on premise or any of those other options that I had mentioned. The UI is going to be the same. This happens to be a cloud version, so it's got the cloud URL, but other than that, it will be the same. Works on all the major browsers, Edge, Firefox, Safari, Chrome. It is fully mobile responsive, so you can use it on a mobile device, iOS, Android, tablet, cell phone. Works great on all those different devices. And so when you first come in, just to orient you in the system, you're going to come into this My Page view. The My Page will show you all of the key well, news from the company, but also it will show you everything that you have to work on as an individual. You would see any favorites you have, any recent artifacts you've accessed. So these are things that I've recently kind of touched for me, probably from previous demos I've done. And if you want to find those, you can always go up here to the search bar. And as well as being able to globally search in the system, a nice feature is you can see all of your recent artifacts right here as well. And you can access them with one click. It shows you which project they're in, which we call a product. And then it can also show you any recent searches you've done in the global search. So often I forget about that. It's a really nice feature. Makes it easy to find things you've done recently. And as well as that on the My Page, you'll see things like requirements you've been assigned, test cases, test sets, everything that you as an end user has been assigned, you would see here on the dashboard. This dashboard is, of course, customizable. You can just change the layout, move things, hide things. You can also add additional items to the dashboard as well if you wish. These items might be standard features of SpiraTeam, or they might be what we call Spira app widgets. Spira app are it's our plugin system. So like Jira has plugins, we do have plugins as well. One difference though is we don't rely on plugins for core features. So core functionality like test case management, QA management, planning, code, all of that's native to the system. It's all right here in the artifact menu. Plugins are used more for things like customization, or they might be used for more unique niche features that are useful for a certain industry or a certain use case. Or, for example, certain automations, like I've got some user stories or requirements. I want to create some set of standard steps to done this, some standard tasks. Those are the kinds of things we'll use a Spira app for, where they're use cases that not every client would want. But generally, if it's something that we see as a core piece of functionality, we'd rather that be in the core system. Back to the harmony concept. So this is the My Page. That's where you can take care of your individual actions. The rest of the system is then going to be done through the project or product navigator, and then the artifact menu. So one thing I would like to mention, if you're used to the Jira world, you're probably used to what we call projects. In SpiraTeam, we call them products, and they have this single hexagon icon. So we have in this example, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 different products. And we call them products because what we found is when we used to call them projects, which we used to do, people were creating lots and lots of projects. So for example, we have a system, it's a new web-based application, we're going to release version 1 of it. That's a project. We'll create a project for that. We're going to release an updated version a month later. Well, that's another project, right? So we'll create another project for that. And that really isn't the design philosophy. The philosophy is that these are long-lived products that have different releases, different cadences that you may have, but ultimately it's one set of user stories or requirements and features that are going to be delivered and iterated on and improved. So we see that as a product. And so that's why we decided to rename them as products. So that's one difference. If you're coming from the Atlassian world, they're products, not projects, but same sort of thing. But the name change was deliberate to encourage what we found was good behavior, which is not to create lots and lots of them for every release, which was happening with some clients. The second thing is you'll see programs. Programs are collections of products. And a program is a reporting entity that lets you say, I've got these 5 different products. My boss is in charge of them all. He wants to see them all, or maybe it's for a single client. Now, in the SpiraTeam edition, you have programs and products. If you decide to upgrade to Spira Plan, you'll see this other thing we have here called a portfolio. That's not in scope for today's demo because that's Spira Plan, but that is something you could upgrade to if you wanted to have program and portfolio management. And the great thing is that Spira does come with these great product level dashboards. This is the testing flavored one. We have a DevOps one, a testing one, and a general one. In this testing one, you can see right away, this is what the QA manager would use, the requirements coverage, the test status, the status of all the test results by my release in each sprint, defect counts, defect graphs. We tie back the defects to the user stories and requirements. I'm also going to just mention, we use the word requirement in the system. Where you see requirement, that's a type of artifact. Requirements come in many flavors in Spira. For agile projects, you're going to typically have epics, features, and stories. If you're doing a waterfall project, which we do support both, you're going to have system requirements, business requirements, and depending on the project template, you will have those defined. So if I say requirement, it could be an epic, it could be a feature, it could be a story. That's all part of the requirements side of the system. And then things like bugs, issues, change requests, enhancements, those are all types of incident or issue, and they will be in the incident section. So whereas Jira, they're all issues, we do categorize them by either a requirement type, which is planned work, incident, which is really unplanned work. And then we have testing artifacts and code artifacts, which I'll come back to. And then, of course, that's the testing dashboard. We've also got, if you go to the general view, you can see more general project manager's view, issues, you can see the progress, what's the progress of all my releases. And here you can see I've got my different active releases. You can see the percentage complete of each of them. You can see the time spent. And this is a demo version, so they're significantly overdue. Obviously, they're in real life, you wouldn't want them to be as far as that. So what this will tell you is how far along am I in developing, testing each of my features for each release, and how does that compare with the schedule? I may have taken up all my time and delivered only 50% of my requirements, or I might be ahead of schedule. This gives you that early warning view as to where you stack and stand on your schedule. You can filter these dashboards by release. If I filter it by release 1, it's going to then change that to be all of the sprints in release 1. So there's sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3. And so we do have that sprint view, release view, and then product-wide view. If you scroll down, you'll see lots of different metrics, burn down charts, burn up charts, velocity charts. We'll show you some key things like here my late finishing tasks, late starting tasks, all these different metrics you'll see here in the system. If I go back up to the all release view, there's also this, I guess we call it schedule view, which shows you a timeline view of the releases, the sprints, and how they stack up along in time. And then the percentage complete is shown in this color where it goes from dark to light. We have more dashboards as well, but just to, again, in interest of time, I'm going to move on. We do have a program level dashboard as well, which is nice. So if you want to see a program view of those different products, here you'll see this is the program. Here you can see these are the different products. And now we're seeing the percentage complete and the time spent and all the other metrics that you saw before, but now at a program level as opposed to just a product level like that. So even with SpiraTeam, you can get that program level view. If you want to go higher than that, then you need SpiraPlan. So let's go then back into the product. Let's look at some of the functionality we have. As I mentioned, SpiraTeam is designed to support both what they call like plan projects and more agile projects, or even a hybrid of the two. So if you go into the requirements view, we have those different views built in. This is the requirements view for a project where you want to look at the requirements in a hierarchy. So this is a typical view you'd have if you're doing scaled agile, where you have epics, features, and stories. It could even be if you're doing this traditional agile and you want to have like epics and features, epics and stories. It gives you a hierarchical view. And here are all the requirements, and there's different types. We've got epics, we've got features, we've got needs, we've got some use cases, we've got qualities. All of these are in the system. You can see the backlog. You can see each of the items along with the test status. Has it been tested? Does it have test cases associated with it? Back to what's the quality? And then we have tasks. So if you're doing a Scrum project with tasks, you can take each of these particular requirements that we'll see here, and you can then, if I just click on it, you can see what are the tasks associated with it. These are my 3 subtasks, and these are my test cases. So again, coming from the Jira world, how does this compare? Well, this will be a user story in Jira. It's a part of an epic called book management. This is a feature type. It could be a user story type. These different types are available. We've got a workflow engine, so you can track the progress. And then you can see all the different fields. So you have releases. You also have the built-in priority field that we call the importance field. You can then see which component it belongs to. We can also then have user-defined fields, which we call custom properties, classification, difficulty. These are examples of custom fields we've defined for our project. We also have a rich text editor, which is full HTML. It includes support for pasting images in, code snippets, tables, links, bullets, video embedding, full screen editor if you want to put a lot of text in, all out of the box with the system. It's got comment tracking. As of late, we've now got the ability to handle mentions. So you can mention someone and it gets tagged to them. That's a new feature we added recently, which is quite nice. As well as that, you can then see all the tests that go with it. So you don't need to have a separate plugin to do test management. It's fully baked into the tool. These are all the test cases. These could be manual tests that are being done by a human. They could be automated tests, for example, Selenium, Cypress, could be our own automation tool if it's GUI testing, could be Postman, could be SOAP UI, Ready API, could be some unit tests coming out of a pipeline, NUnit, JUnit, Jasmine, Jest, Node, PyTest, you name it. We've got all those plugins available, and they all report back in real time into Spira. And of course, we've got then the tasks that you might want to have. These are the project management tasks. These are equivalent to the subtasks in Jira. One nice feature we have is we have automations built in. So if you have standard tasks you want to create, for example, for every user story, you want to have a code review, you want to have a design review. These are part of your steps to doneness. You can make those steps to doneness checklists in the system using our app for that. And then you can just click a button and it will create those automatically and add those to the user story. We do a full audit control or an audit trail in the system. So whenever you change something, we will track the audit changes for the item itself. So here you can see we've changed some of the values of this requirement. You can also see that we've added an association to a test case. If we remove the association, that's also going to be tracked in history too. And that's really good for audit control. So if someone says, hey, I wrote a test for it, but the test failed, well, if you remove that test, well, that's breaking the audit. So you want to make sure you have a trail that someone did that. So we track all of that in the system, and you can even create snapshots of those different change points that we call a baseline. And then the traceability is a key feature in SpiraTeam. So from this associations tab, I can see from this one user story, I could see on this requirement, I could see all of the defects right here that have been found that are connected to it. There's actually a lot. And depending on the requirement, you can also see any code commits. If you're using our code management module, you can see from this one requirement, you could see that not only are all these defects related to it, we've got to fix, you can see that we've also linked it to other requirements. So maybe this requirement is linked to a use case, or maybe another feature that's got a relationship or a dependency. You can also see which commits this was in. So if I go to that, I can bring it up here using the code management section. So back here now in code management, it's brought me into that. It shows me that this particular requirement was implemented using this task, and then these 3 code files were changed. If I click on the file, I can even see the lines of code that were changed. So synchronizing the development view with the testing view with the project management view, all in one system. And then the question you might ask is, well, where does this code live? Well, the code can obviously live in TaraVault. That's our free code repository that comes with SpiraTeam. So if you need a cloud-based repository to store the code, then use TaraVault for free. If you already have, say, GitHub or GitLab, no problem at all. We integrate fully with those tools, and you can actually view the code commits, the source code, and the pull requests with GitHub or GitLab or any other Git compatible repository. We also do have integration with both GitHub and GitLab at the issue tracking level and at the pipeline level. You can now trigger pipelines from Spira. You can also view when the pipeline runs all of the builds that come through, all the jobs that are executed, and then have traceability into what was in that job, which test does it impact, which requirements does it impact. And in fact, you can see that right here. We've got a build that was done on this particular feature, and you can see this particular feature has actually been involved in 2 different builds, and we can track which branch that was in. So a typical example might be this requirement is going to be developed, it's going to be tested in the feature branch, it's going to be merged into the developed branch, it's going to be deployed into development, it's going to then hopefully go into staging and production, and we might want to know where is this particular requirement in the pipeline. Is it in development, is it in production? Where is it? You can see that right here in the system from this one view. You can see this feature and how it's moved through each of the pipelines step by step, and what's passed and what's failed, all from this one view, which is really nice. So that's some of the requirements tracking views. If I go back, as I mentioned, there are different views. This is the general kind of requirements view. For those working on waterfall projects or more formal requirements management type projects, typically that's automotive, it could be aerospace or life sciences. We do have a more traditional document view. This lets you see all the requirements in a document format. It's live editable using our built-in editor. There's also a traceability view where you can see all of the requirements in a nice mind map. So you'll be able to see the requirements. You can see that the backlog has a nice visual hierarchy. They're color-coded by priority, and you can see all the associations in a graphical format using these dotted lines. We are looking to add some functionality coming out maybe later this year, using some of the AI tools to auto-generate some of this stuff. It's going to be exciting. I'm hoping to be able to right-click on one of these and say, auto-generate child requirements or test cases using ChatGPT, and do that. So that's something we're playing with right now to see how useful it is as opposed to just a toy, but it looks like it may add a lot of value and really simplify some of these standard use cases where you've got a requirement and there's like 10 standard tests you always want. So using AI to really streamline some of these use cases is something we're trying to do later this year. But from this view, you can see a graphical view of the backlog and all the requirements. Of course, Agile Products is our bread and butter. So if you go to our planning board, that's built into the system. I'm just going to show you the new view because that's what's live already. This is the backlog view where this is our sprint backlog in this case. We've chosen sprint 1 of release 1. You can see by requested, planned, in progress, we've got the different statuses here. You can configure which statuses are in your board. You can see the user stories as cards. A nice feature is that for every story card, you can see not just the actual requirement, you can see the test coverage. And if there are any tasks, you can see that as well. And you can configure what's in the board to hide or show different elements. And if I was to go in here, let me go to a release backlog. That'll give you more items. Let me see if I've got one with tasks. So here's a good example. As a user, I want to be able to see my overdue books. That's the card. Click on it to get the full screen view right here. Click on that will take me to the full editor. I can make changes right here in line. And you can see that's the requirement number. It's a feature type rather than a story. It's planned. And then you can see the test coverage. This is the test coverage. It's 100% failed. That's why the whole bar is red. You can see we've got two different test cases, that one and that one. You can click on them to open them up. There's 4 tasks that are associated with that particular feature. They're all not started. That's why they're all yellow, and they're all behind schedule, hence the way they're all yellow. If you go here, there's another example which has now got a partial pass and a partial failure. So you can see here the bar will show you that percentage coverage. This is half pass and half failed. That's the failed one, that's the pass one. All this is in line on the boards. And the boards are very flexible. We support both x-axis and a y-axis, so columns and rows, and we can even group to have multiple boards. So if you have a team, you can now have grouping by team and by person. So for example, I can make the rows by person like we have, and I group by team. And now you can have a BA team versus the dev team versus the PMs, and you can track the different people in the different teams and keep them separate. So very flexible, two-dimensional boards with grouping. So that's some of the board functionality. We also have a task board. So if you go into the task section, we've got a task board. This is the Gantt view. We also have a Gantt view. So for waterfall projects, you go into task management. We've got a nice Gantt chart view. Let me see if I've got one that looks a little better. Let me go into the sprint here, and you can see, there we go. That's your classic Gantt chart view. Inline editing, of course. So for waterfall projects, we've got the Gantt view. And for the Agile products, we've got the board view. This is now a task board. So with the task board, these are now tasks, not requirements. You can then group them by priority, by release, by status, all the different aspects in the system. And you can even have the rows by release, by status, by type, and also by requirement. So lots of different versions. Go to, let's say, release 1. I can do it by requirement. And now you can see for each of the requirements, what are the tasks to go with it. So here's my requirement. It's got 3 tasks. The red, there's the yellow, and there's gray. So some are running late, some are starting late, some are not started. Red means it's running late. The end date's been breached. Yellow means its starting date has been breached, hasn't started yet, but it's overdue. The gray means it's in the future, hasn't started yet, so that's okay. And you can see here are the different tasks, and that's what makes up the status. So we have a nice task board that ties back to your requirements and your story. So you can have backlog planning, sprint planning, and then tracking in each sprint what's the status by person and by team. So that's some of the functionality on the planning side. We also do have a document management system. For those who are using Confluence and looking for something to store documents, create web pages, create wiki pages, that's all in the document management part of Spira. I won't spend too much time on here. Needless to say that we do support Markdown. So if you're used to wiki syntax format, we use our own Markdown, standard Markdown format. So you can write pages here using Markdown. We also do have a diagram editor. So if you want to create diagrams, mind maps, network diagrams, flow charts, it can all be authored directly in Spira. We also have the same thing for spreadsheets and text content. You can write everything here in Spira. It's all part of the core system. So that's some of the planning side and some of the tracking side. We do also have a full QA system. I'm not going to spend as much time on this in this particular webinar because that's really more QA oriented. With Jira, you typically have to buy a QA plugin like X-Ray or Zephyr and add that into the tool and manage it separately. This is all natively built into Spira. So with SpiraTeam, not only do you get all that planning functionality, the item tracking, the collaboration tools, you're also getting a full world-class QA system built in. You can manage the test cases, link those test cases to the requirements. So if we go in here, for example, there's a test case, ability to create a new author. This test case is defined here. This is a manual test case with steps. It's also linked to an automation script using the automation tool that we can run in our pipeline. And it also then ties back to my requirements. So that way, if this test passes or fails, it's going to update all of the user stories, requirements, and features in the system and update the progress of my particular release or sprint. And we track the execution of this test case right here. And I can keep my manual test cases, and if there are any automation ones, separate. So that way you can always see what's been going on and be able to track, are we seeing systemic failures on one browser versus another, one environment versus another? Is there any root cause that's causing these, failures versus passes? Okay, so that's some of the QA side. Again, I won't spend too much time on QA because, again, that's not a core part of today's demo, but there is advanced test set scheduling features, data management. You can manage data sets, pairwise data. So it's a full QA system. Now, on the development side, SpiraTeam includes all the functionality that you would get in Jira, plus some of the code inspection tools. It can manage the code using Tarabolt, or it can integrate with any of the other code providers that I mentioned earlier, like GitHub or GitLab. We can track all the different branches, feature branches, develop branches, whatever methodology you're using, it can track all the branches here. And you can see for any given file, you can see all the commits. You can see which of the Spira artifacts that commit was based on. Why did we change the code from a source code and supply chain compliance standpoint? A lot of customers now are very careful. Where did this code come from? And the impetus for this is really cybersecurity. A lot of vulnerabilities now are coming in from the code as opposed from the external perimeter. And so we want to make sure that our source code, both the code we write ourselves or any third-party libraries, is secure. And so knowing, why did we add this line? Why did we change it? What is the benefit? Tracking that back to particular requirements and particular bugs is an important part of people's SOC 2 and ISO certification. We do it ourselves. And so you can see right here that we changed the code. It was implementing this requirement, and it was fixing these 2 bugs. If I click on them, it would open it up in the system. And if I click on that revision, it will show you what changed. SpiraTeam does, of course, come with pre-built connectors for different IDEs. So if you wanted to connect Spira to manage the code, you can then obviously open up in your favorite development tool and see the live change and see the artifacts in there. So for example, go to products, go to SpiraTeam, go to add-ons and downloads. These are all the downloads that come with the tool for free and are supported by Inflectra. And if I go to IDE integrations, here you can see we integrate with Visual Studio, VS Code, JetBrains, all their IDEs, loads of different ones they use for different languages, including Android Studio, Eclipse, using Mylin, some older versions of Visual Studio as well. And then we also integrate with things like Jenkins, GitHub, GitLab, ADO, CircleCI, and TeamCity, and Bamboo. So that's some of the code management. We can track pull requests. We can also track the commits right here in the system. And the last piece I would say is that Jira started life as a bug tracker. Bug tracking is an important functionality set. It's natively in SpiraTeam. You get it with the tool. When you run tests and log bugs, they're automatically logged here into the system. So for example, this particular bug that we see here on the grid, this was logged during testing. You can tell that because it's got this specific format of the description, where if you go down, you'll see there's a description, there's an expected result with the screenshot, there's the actual result. So we should have got this nice page. We actually got this 404 page. That's not good. And you can see that was the steps we took. That's where it happened. And then you've got a bug that's logged from that. So we have this traceability from the feature to the test result to the bug. And now the bug's been assigned to me as Fred to fix this. And then Fred would then be assigned the bug. They can work on it using the workflow. And when Fred finishes fixing it, Fred would then reassign it back to the tester. And the great thing is, not only do you have this bug with the information that you see here, you've also got a link to the test result that generated the bug. So the developer's like, well, how do I reproduce this? They can go back here and they can see step by step, how to reproduce it. Which server did we use? Oh, we're using that version. We're using this login. Because guess what? Maybe a different staging server, maybe a different login, the error, it doesn't manifest. And so saves a lot of time, a lot of miscommunication between the different team members, because you've got a good record here about where it failed and when it broke. So that way, when you fix it and push it back into the pipeline, we can make sure we're actually testing the same thing as each other. Also, this defect that was logged is auto-linked to the requirement it came from. And so you can see right away what is the intended functionality, because occasionally the tester will test something and actually their understanding of it is different than the actual requirement, or the requirement's badly written and is ambiguous. And we could both read the same requirement and it means something to put differently to both of us. And we actually need to update the requirement to be more clear with the customer, perhaps, what's the actual functionality. SpiraTeam also does include an instant messenger. You can see this little green circle. That allows us to send instant messages between different users. And when we do that, we can actually then post those comments into the artifact, like in this case, the defect, as a persistent comment as well. SpiraTeam also has lots of built-in collaboration tools, like the ability to email people. There's email notifications built in. You can also subscribe people to this using the mentions or just using this toolbar. You can export things throughout the system into different formats. And there's also the general tools you expect, cloning items, copying items, and all that sort of stuff. And then lastly, for defect tracking, we do have both a grid view where you can sort and filter and create favorites, like you can see here. Favorite filters you can just activate with one click. You can save different views with different columns. But we've also got a nice board view as well. So you can do it. You see it on a board, see it on a grid, really whatever's your preference. And the last piece I like to show is reporting. SpiraTeam comes with a rich set of reports. Some of our clients, they just use the built-in reports. To add a built-in report, you just hit the plus button, pick the report from the gallery right here, add it into the dashboard. And once you do that, the report gets added. You can filter that report by release or by sprint. And then you've got the different reports here. You can see different graphs and charts. You can export any data grid from any of them into a CSV. You can also export the image for any of them. And you can also, if you wanted to, write your own graph. So SpiraTeam does come with its own query language. We call it eSQL. Similar to Jira has, I think, JQL. We call it eSQL, Entity SQL. It's an object version of SQL, and you can create your own graphs and charts here in the system. And you do that using the, it's an admin function, edit graphs or edit reports, and you can then build queries, publish them, and that way you can build custom graphs that users can run. For example, here's a graph I did. It's called new graph 1 because I didn't give it a good name. You can see that, and you can change the type of graph. Is it a line chart, a bar chart, or a donut chart, and export that out. So there's incredible flexibility. For many customers, they just want it out of the box. Just give me a graph. Other users want to write their own graphs. They've got custom metrics, custom KPIs. You can develop those in the system and publish them for your team to use. And of course, as well as that, you might want to get data out of the system. You might want to generate a requirements traceability matrix or a test report or a status report, whatever it is. You can always generate data in the system, from the system, and those reports can also be filtered, but also exported into the document repository. So if you create a report, you might want to archive a copy of it. So you've got, again, history that this report on this date and time had this data. With one click, I can generate the report and save it in the documents for versioning as well. So with that, that's a good overview of SpiraTeam. I didn't do a very deep dive into the QA side. We usually covered that in a separate webinar focusing more on QA. So when we have those coming up, so feel free to join those as well. Any questions? Teresa, handing it back to you for any questions as this report pops up.
Thanks, Adam. That was a fantastic presentation. Yep, there's the traceability report. Just let you finish that. Yes, any questions from the attendees there? No, I'm not seeing any questions. Thank you so much, Adam. That was a fantastic in-app presentation. Oftentimes those webinars going to be recorded and released, so you can listen to it at half speed, so that you can get all those clicks that Adam spoke about in the app. The different board views and also Spira apps, which Adam alluded to. So thank you so much for attending today's webinar. If you're coming to it late on the recording and have any questions, reach out to us and we can certainly arrange a personal demo for the product as well.
Right, and you can also post questions on the LinkedIn video, on the YouTube video. We do get notified if you do that. I have seen people do that, which is kind of interesting. So if you do comment nicely, be polite, be respectful. I've seen the other as well. We have to delete those ones. But if you put a question on the YouTube comments, it goes into our sales team. We do have people reply to those. So if you want the community to see them, please do that as well. And also, I know there are new boards. The new boards are coming out. For those who are experienced users watching this, we've got some major exciting updates of the boards coming out next month. We are going to have a webinar on those, specifically on the new board functionality. I'm very excited to show that, but that's not for today. So again, thanks Teresa for hosting the webinar. Thanks everyone for attending, and have a good rest of the day.
Bye all.